What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are having a great day so far. Right now, as we speak, crypto not doing too much, but I wouldn't be sleeping on it because it is consolidating and it could be making a move very soon. Now, if you guys are new to this channel here, you guys should know that I dive deep into the charts every day, uncover the moves before they actually happen, because let's face it, that's a lot less riskier than chasing pumping green candles. So if you guys do not want to chase pumping green candles and actually want to find setups before they actually move, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. I will bring you guys my daily ideas on what I think on the charts, and of course, before these markets actually make a move. Okay, now if you guys do have any technical analysis requests, make sure to drop them in the comment section below. I will pick one technical analysis request every day and I will do it for you guys. That could be any markets, it could be altcoins, Bitcoin, stock markets, whatever markets. I'm going to be taking a look into the charts for you. Okay, so if that's what you want, make sure to drop a request down below. Of course, on this channel right now in this video, we're going to be taking a look into some major altcoins as well. Before they move, I'm going to be walking you guys through how I look at the markets, find hidden but common patterns a lot of people usually miss, so you can actually find the moves before they happen, and that's a lot less riskier than actually, chasing a move that has already happened. Okay, now let's take a look into Bitcoin real quick. Hourly time frame. I talked about this yesterday. So we had a breakdown of a bear flag here. Okay, so since yesterday, uh, quite a bit have changed. Okay, so let's just do a quick recap of this bear flag here. Price target is going to be was about 91,000. Now I'm gonna change my opinion on this bear flag, because if we actually take a look here on the hourly time frame, the breakdown point was right here at about 94.4, right? Just right over here, the breakdown points. However, on the hourly time frame, you guys can see that we actually have reclaimed the breakdown point. So in my opinion, we have already reclaimed that support that was lost during the breakdown. So we have actually invalidated the breakdown here. That is just how I look at it, okay? And we are consolidating within a symmetrical triangle pattern here, which usually breaks in the direction of the what it was before the formation of the triangle, which in this case would be up, right? So let me go ahead and take away some of these charts and trend lines. And then we have a symmetrical triangle pattern here, but what you should also know is that we have a rounded bottom as well. So what does rounded bottoms tell you, right? Rounded bottoms means there are higher highs and higher lows, okay? Which we're seeing right now, and that is usually a good sign, okay? Now, we're almost reaching the end of the symmetrical triangle pattern. Let's get a just small target out of this pattern here, which you can measure by measuring the opening of the pattern and then putting it on top of a potential breakout point. I'm just going to put it at the very tip of the triangle. That will give us about 97, just right underneath 97.5 here for Bitcoin, right? Let's see, just zooming out a little bit, right? We do have quite a bit of reversal indicators here, right? On the on the shorter time frames, okay, including the 6 hour, right? If you guys know, the other thing that I usually look for are reversal indicators on the RSI. It's a very simple but effective indicator. Okay, so I know a lot of people talk about more sophisticated indicators, right? But in my opinion, it's how good you could read an indicator. So it could be very simple, but if you read it well, then you would significantly increase your chance of success, right? And I love the RSI. It's very simple, it's very easy to learn, and it definitely has a very high chance of success. Okay, not 100%, but it's definitely got some. It would definitely increase your chances of success by quite a bit. Now, 6 hour time frame, we do have quite a bit of divergence here. That's basically if you see higher highs on the price action chart, but with lower highs on the RSI, that usually means a reversal. Okay, we've been getting quite a bit of dips here, right? Coming from the the divergence. However, we are still consolidating within this symmetrical triangle pattern. We're still getting higher lows. Okay, like I said, since the drop here, right? Since the breakdown. Come over here to the 12-hour time frame, where we are still very much getting a higher low, but cannot ignore this divergence as well, right? We have basically hit every short-term moving average, right? We can actually take a look, right? And I'm talking about that because that could be coming up as support. Whenever you're above moving averages, they are going to be coming up as support. Whenever you're below moving averages, they're going to be resistance. Okay, so that is a pretty good idea on where to open positions and where to close positions, right? The general rule of thumb in trading is you buy low and you sell high. So you buy at support and you sell at resistance, right? I'm sure you guys have heard that before. If not, it's a good idea to probably, just go ahead and Google some of these simple ideas in trading. Investopedia is a good starting point. All right, so like I said, I think we have hit a lot of the shorter term moving averages. I don't think we have hit the hourly 200, but that's pretty close to the 12-hour 21, right? 1 hour 200 is currently at about 93. That is an important short term moving average. 93, remember that, okay? 12-hour 21, which is what I'm looking at. What I am tracking as well, because that could be the next level of support if the price action actually breaks down. Now, symmetrical triangle patterns, like I said, it usually favors the direction prior to the formation of the triangle, but you also got to take into consideration that there is still a chance that it breaks down. And if it does break down, the next level of support I'll be looking at will be probably about the hourly 200 SMA, 93,000, 12-hour 21 SMA. Those are going to be the next levels of support I'm looking at, because we are seeing divergence at the 12-hour time frame as well. Okay, let's come over here to the daily time frame, where we have divergence as well, but we have not hit the 12-hour 21 SMA yet. Okay, so let's kind of zoom out of the details real quick. Okay, 3-day time frame, very important time frame, right? We have broken out of that 3-day double bottom pattern here. Very common, but not a pattern, not very common pattern, but not a pattern that you want to miss. Okay, because it usually means there's going to be a reversal coming. If you actually flip that upside down, if you see a double top pattern, that means it's usually going to break down. Okay, but in this case, it's a double bottom. And what also gives me confidence in the reversal here is you see a double bottom with bullish divergence, right? That will increase the chance of a reversal by quite a bit. Okay, so Bitcoin here has actually broken out of the 3-day time frame. Neckline was about 89,000. We've been talking about this for the past couple of weeks. Finally broke out in the past couple of days, right? Breakout target is about 104,000. We are still at some resistance, in my opinion, because we are still at the 3-day 50 SMA, the white line. In my opinion, there, not a solid close on top of this resistance yet. Something to be keeping an eye out on, and that is about 93,000. Weekly time frame, currently about 92,000. So 92,000, 93,000. Going to be looking at that as possible support coming from shorter term moving averages. and possible resistance on some of these bigger time frames, like 3-day, weekly time frame, because we haven't gotten a solid candle close above that yet. Let's take a look into Ethereum, still lagging behind, okay? And this is what I mean by lagging behind, okay? So if we actually take a look into, daily time frame up, right? We can see that Bitcoin, Ethereum, Total 3 all have broken out of this downtrend that has formed since end of January. Ethereum is still very far away from the daily 200 SMA, currently at about 2,700. Okay, price target out of this breakout though is at about 2,900. So could Ethereum actually catch up? Right, I've seen some pumps out of Ethereum, so I would not rule that out, but what are the chances? I guess at the end of the day, it's like in the back of your mind, you always have to think about what are the chances of something happening. And you could probably get a good reference if you actually back test the charts, right? And, kind of test, what are the chances of something happening based on this pattern, right? And Ethereum, I mean, it's still lagging quite a bit behind. I would not rule out a big pump that could catch it up. But that's just my opinion, not financial advice, right? Um, and Total 3 here is actually a lot closer to breaking back on top of the daily 200. Just like, Bitcoin has gotten a solid candle close above the daily 200, right? And Total 3 is the closest next to the daily 200 SMA here. It did also break out of this huge downtrend. Most notably, you can see it on the daily time frame that has formed since end of January. Price target is going to be right underneath 1.1 trillion. That could do some amazing pumps for some of these smaller altcoins, as you guys could probably see. If you guys have crypto bubbles, or if you guys just look at, I don't know, your Coinbase charts, right? Just for example, let's take a look into stock market. Very important because this could serve as a front-running signal for Bitcoin. Okay, very high correlation with Bitcoin, and of course, Bitcoin drives the entire altcoin markets, right? I mean, if Bitcoin dumps, then it really doesn't matter what setup you guys got on the altcoins. It's not going to sustain. Okay. If you don't believe that's to be true, you could point out to me a counter example. If Bitcoin was to go on a downtrend, how long would a pump in an altcoin last? Okay, it most likely eventually will come back down with Bitcoin. Let's take a look into some top 100 crypto setups. Let me. I'll just finish the S&P 500 ES1 here. Okay. Um, talked about this falling wedge pattern, usually breaks to the upside. Okay, the measure target is you basically take the opening of the pattern and then putting on top of a potential breakout point if it has not broken out yet. Now, measure target out of this is going to be about 5,800 for the S&P 500. Okay, so still looking good. So in this case, I don't see any threats coming from. I don't see any dump signals coming from the S&P 500 that could potentially affect Bitcoin. Okay, let's go ahead to some top 100 altcoins by market cap. Okay, uh, I'm gonna take you guys through how I look at the charts, how I uncover some hidden but common patterns, measure targets, right, and just some of my ideas that's flowing when I look at altcoin charts. Okay, of course, keeping in mind that Bitcoin still the most important driver. If Bitcoin dumps, the altcoins are not going to be looking good. Okay, so definitely going to be keeping an eye out on going to be keeping in mind of the Bitcoin charts in the back of my head when I look at altcoin setups. Let's take a look into Pepe. Okay, what could be happening here? So what I usually do when I want to look at an altcoin charts is I look at the monthly time frame. Okay, If you guys actually take a look into a lot of the altcoins that have data that goes back to 2020, 2021, that was the last bull cycle. Just tell me, how long do altcoins usually have a monthly time frame that stays up in overbought area on the RSI? An overbought area is basically a reading of 70 or more. So if it's not in a overbought area, that tells me it's not as risky to actually be in that market. Of course, that is just a reference point. It doesn't have to play out exactly like 2020, 2021, but it's still a good idea to get a reference point, okay? And that is basically, still the general idea of RSI. If it's in overbought territory, it is in risky territory, right? And a dump could be coming soon, right? But in this case, Pepe, it is in neutral territory on the RSI, so it is not overbought. In my opinion, it is not risky. And that is what I look for on the monthly time frame, right? And on the monthly time frame here, it doesn't really have that much data, so let's go ahead and zoom in anyways. Weekly time frame, let's see if we can get a pattern here, okay? Now you're gonna find this pattern very commonly, right? This is called a falling wedge, and you guys can Google the significance of a falling wedge. Let me see if I can get 3 wicks touching here. I like to just be as technical as possible. You need to have 3 wicks touching on a time frame to validate that trend line. I guess on the 3-day time frame here, we do have, a pretty close 3rd wick. I mean, we could keep going down to daily time frame and see if I can validate my trend line. I mean, I don't have 3 wicks touching here on the bottom trend line, but I would still call this a falling wedge pattern just because of the 3rd wick here is pretty damn close. Okay, let's take a look on this breakout here for Pepe. Okay, now this is a very common pattern, as you guys will see, so train your eyes to look at these patterns, look for these patterns. Okay, very, very common pattern after a downtrend and a falling wedge pattern. And how you would measure the breakout target is you measure the opening of the pattern and then you put it on top of a potential or actual breakout point. And in this case, it's going to be right here. Measure target is going to give you about a 0.0040 zeros and 22. 0.000022, okay, for Pepe. And that's how you get a measure target. Now, measure targets are estimates only, okay? It could be more or less, right? But it's still a good idea to get a sense of where it could be going. Let's take a look into one more. As I'm trying to close up for the 20-minute mark. Okay, BTT, BTTC, USDT here. Monthly time frame. Let's go through this exercise very quick. We are not in overbought territory, so looking good, right? Let's take a look into the weekly time frame. See if we can find a pattern here. All right, that looks like a pretty perfect falling wedge to me. You take a measure move, okay? And you put it right over here. Measure target is going to give you about 120 preceded by, all the zeros. Okay, let's take a look into even a lower time frame here. But on the 3-day time frame here, right? We see that there is. That's basically. That's basically bullish divergence to me, where you have like an almost double bottom on the RSI, but I would still consider that as bullish divergence. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so that's basically how I uncover altcoin patterns, hidden and common. And if you guys enjoyed this update, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And have a beautiful day. I'll see you guys tomorrow.